business.
So one of your first matches that you had in WCW in ring, and I think it was actually in ring debut, was against Chris Benoit,
Yes, sir.
who obviously is a guy who has a very, very checkered and colored history in the world of professional wrestling. What was it like getting in the ring with someone like Chris Benoit? Because he always had that intensity about him. He always had that. I don't know the word to say, but he was just always so aggressive, intense in the ring. Was working with him, a ease to work with, or was he someone that was very, very difficult to work with?
I don't know that I can name anyone that I worked with at WCW that I would label difficult to work with in the ring. But going back to Benoit, and you're absolutely right, it was December. We were in Buffalo, Midlands Arena, I think was the name of it. And I had my debut on Nitro, my first wrestling singles match against Chris Benoit. And a couple things led up to that. Raven was in a feud with Benoit. And so almost every night after his match, the flock would hit the ring. And one thing we did that the NWO didn't, and I think it's very apparent if you watched, we actually laid out spot by spot our run-ins. And what I mean by that is we tried to make it look entertaining as opposed to just have 20 guys come in and put the boots to somebody.
Yeah.
That's okay. How exciting is that? That's just, it's been overdone. So as Raven would lay it out or Chris would lay it out, Lodi was always the first one in. I'm the cannon fodder and I'm taking the bump, right? So every night Chris would finish his match, get his hand raised. Here comes Lodi. Wham! Either a clothesline, big chop, whatever it was. So I had worked with him in spots, but obviously not had a match with him. And the coolest story, one of my coolest wrestling stories ever, and I tell it every time I get a shot. We knew a week in advance I was going to wrestle Chris Benoit. Raven was sick. He was in the hospital. And so they came up with a storyline to keep it going. Chris Benoit had to beat every member of the flock to actually get back at Raven. So we were in Chattanooga, I think, the week before, and Terry Taylor grabbed me and said, hey, you got Benoit next Monday. That'll be your debut match, but, make it look good. So I had a week to kind of think about this. And my old partner at the time, who was still down at the power plant, he said, Benoit is going to call that match. I mean, there's no way it's all him, right?
Yeah.
And he said, but you've never wrestled before on TV live, and people already hate you. He said, what if, and he just goes forward and lays out basically a 10, 12-minute match. Everything, he thought, just in case Benoit said, what do you want to do? And we're both laughing. We're like, hey, it's never going to happen. I got this match in my head, and I get to TV on Monday, and the board's up at 2 o'clock. I knew I had to wrestle Benoit. I go to catering. I see Chris, and I got along great with Chris, and I loved him with all my heart. His intensity was unmatched in the ring, and he was one who made you believe everything he did was good. And so the show started live at 8 o'clock, but we get there at 2. We're sitting in catering. I see Chris. I walk over. Hey, Chris, you want to talk about our match? Hey, Lodi, it's 2 o'clock. I'll get with you later. Okay, cool. You're the guy. Come back at 4. See him again. Hey, Chris, Lodi, it's 4 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I'll give you some time. Get with you later. I think I asked him one more time at 6 or 6:30. Now we go live at 8. Chris, you want to talk about what we're going to do? Where he's like, Lodi, we're on we're at the end of the first hour. We've got plenty of time. I'll come find you. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's 7 o'clock. It's 7:15. It's 7:30. I don't know what we're doing. Now, if you remember, the flock used to come out a lot of nights down through the fans and sit in the front row when we first started. Yeah. Some nights we didn't make our entrance during the show. Some nights the show opened up and we were already at ringside. Raven would make those calls based on how he felt that day. And it's 7:30, and I say, Raven, are we going out before my match? Or are we going out early? What are we doing? He goes, let's go out now. I mean, we'll go out early and just get our seats. Well, when we go out to get our seats, I can't come back and talk to Chris. So it's Raven says, let's go out at 7:45 before the show starts. And at 7:30, I can't find Chris anywhere. Now I'm starting to sweat it just because I want my first match to be great.
Yeah.
And I'm looking everywhere backstage. I'm dressed, got the whole 9 yards gimmick going on. And Chris Benoit walks through one of the backstage curtains. I'll never forget. He always wore this long trench coat when it was cold and always had a cup of coffee in his hand. I said, Chris, hey, man, I hate to bug you. Can we please just get an idea of what we're going to do tonight? And he's like, Lodi, we don't go out till. I said, hey, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You know how we go sit out in the stands some nights early? He said, yeah. I said, that's what we're doing. We're going out right now. Can we talk about our match? And the most amazing thing about that night was he looks at me and says, Lodi, what do you want to do?
Wow. Wow. That's like the veteran offering it up to the new guy. Like that's very unheard of.
Kid who had never wrestled on TV live. And I looked at him, and after I caught my breath and realized what he had said, I said, how about if when I come out of the ring, I'm over the barricade into the ring, when I get up on the apron, come from behind and knock me off. These fans want to see me get beat up because they're chanting Lodi sucks in all the arenas. Chop me all around the ring, blah, blah, come back in, hit me with a deal. I'll cut you off, get my heat. And here's the kicker. I said, at that time he was using 3 finishes. He would do the superplex, the crossface, and he would also do the flying, the diving headbutt. So I'm wrapping up what we're going to do, and I'm like, Chris, this may be too much, but do you mind hitting me with all 3 of your finishes? Set me up for the superplex, hit the diving headbutt, hook me in for the crossface. He goes, great, kid, I'll see you out there. Turns around and walks off.
And that you didn't speak to him till the match after that?
Never again. I gave it to him one time, and he came out. We did that whole match. The only thing that got changed right before the spot where I'm supposed to cut Benoit off and get some heat on him, our referee leans in and says, hey, we're running late. We just went into the 9 o'clock hour. We're all starting. You guys got to go home. And Chris said, Lodi. He said, dude, I'm sorry. He set me up top for the superplex, and we went home from there. But in hindsight, I got my butt kicked for a good 5-7 minutes, just put Benoit over huge. And that was what my character was. He wasn't supposed to be a tough guy who could beat people, much less Chris Benoit. And so it was a great start to my WCW career as Lodi, doing a match like only Lodi could do. Get beat with 3 finishes. Why not? So it's kind of asinine, but it was great. It was a great experience. And Raven got in touch with me immediately, goes, bro, I didn't know you could sell like that. That was awesome. That was great. And so to get compliments like that from him was awesome. And I'll never forget. And he and I just had this conversation this summer. I walked through the curtain when it's over. And Chris was still out in the ring. And Arn Anderson standing there. He's like, come here, kid. I need to talk to you. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Here it comes. He said, hey, he pulls me off to the side. And he goes, hey, I know you didn't get any offense in. That probably, it's okay. First of all, when I go cash my check every Friday, the lady at the bank never says, did you win or did you lose? She just said, nice to see you, sir. Thanks for the money. He said, I can put you over on a big name next week if I need to, and bam, you can be right back up or wherever. I'm like, Arn, time out. I just wrestled Chris Benoit for my first match ever live on Nitro. Bro, I'm good. I'm not, there's nothing I would change. It was perfect for the character, perfect for the storyline. And so that's where that came about. And Chris was the absolute best by far I've ever been in the ring with. Technically the most sound and most believable. And strangely enough, as you said, his intensity and all this stuff, everything he did, excluding the chops, obviously, pretty light. He didn't work stiff. Unless you had your back turned to him and he booted you and you didn't see it, he's going to make you sell the next one. But so you always had to keep your eyes on Chris because he could throw a boot or a kick or a knee or something. If you're not watching, you can't sell what you don't feel. And so, again, it was great. We did lots of run-ins after, and WCW liked the program. They even recycled it, and we had another run-in with Benoit before it was all said and done.